Hello there. If you like truth, you'll like it here. Welcome. I 100% believe Lexi McCullum, Chris Fletcher of Love and Marriage Huntsville's daughter, when she says her dad was absentee and her stepmom was a side piece. Full disclosure, I couldn't pick Nell Fletcher out from a pork chop sandwich. I don't know her or her husband from the Love and Marriage Huntsville show, at least not in its current or more recent seasons. I do know of them, some, but literally just some. What I remember of them more than anything is that theirs was the house where Martell and Melody had that argument, where Martell threw in Melody's face that his mistress was mistressing and doing it to his satisfaction. I mean, that's not exactly what he said, but it's the gist. What he'd actually said was that his gutter rat, with all the time in the world to be on her knees, was sexually pleasing him more than his wife, with her career and businesses and adult responsibilities was, or something like that. But what I remember was that Nell and Chris were out on the back patio of their home with Martell and Melody in attendance, talking to them and trying to talk some sense into Martell. Now, trying to talk some sense into Martell could have taken all millennium, so I'm happy the scene eventually ended. Other than that, I don't know much about them, other than what breezes across my desk every now and again. Like, I think I also heard something about Chris cheating and now forgiving him, but that's the extent of it. So, understandably, I was surprised to hear of Lexi McCullum's story. I didn't know Lexi and don't know any of their kids, and I'm not particularly interested in the Fletchers or most of the Love and Marriage Huntsville cast, though their lives make great parallels for things I am interested in. But still, even with being uninterested in her parents, I found myself listening in to her tell her story. I still don't know what drew me in. Well, I listened in, and guess what? I 100% believe every single word that came out of her mouth. I believe her when she says Chris was a deadbeat father to her, though he did pay child support. She didn't use those words, but I like to call a thing, so I'll use them for her. And I believe her when she says Nell was a side piece of Chris's, one of many in fact. I mean, the fact that he continued to cheat on her in their marriage pretty much lends weight to what Lexi said, which is that Chris cheated on her mom with Nell, amongst others, and then cheated on Nell with others as well, which Nell confirmed. I believe Lexi McCullum, Chris's daughter, when she says that Nell chased her father, Chris, and I believe her when she says that Nell always seemed to have it out for her. In an upcoming video entitled, Dear Men, Your Side Pieces Not Only Ruin Your Marriage, they also, not so secretly, hate your children, I discuss how the mistress of a man will often be envious toward and in competition with his children, particularly his daughters. Lexi McCullum's story is a great example of this, as is Martell's story, particularly as it relates to how his mistress treats and talks about his kids, as well as what's in store for their relationship for the future. I encourage you to check it out. In the meantime, suffice it to say that I believe Lexi when she says that Nell would show off her belongings and gifts from Chris. I believe her when she describes feeling and being ostracized and isolated from the family. I believe her when she details being kept out of the loop and made to feel less than the biological children shared between Nell and Chris, as well as any others that lived in the home. I think it is unfortunate that some men end their marriages and end their relationships with their children as if the children born in the marriage were a package deal, such that if the marriage ends, then so does his obligation to the children. I think that's a bunch of bull, but is all too common a stance taken in some men. Yes, some fight hard to maintain relationships with their children, even when their marital status or address changes. But they are the exception, as far too many drop the children and ride off into the sunset with their new women and their new kids, or even that woman's kids, often neglecting their own. I think this definitely happened in this situation, in my opinion, and allegedly, especially if, as it was told, Chris was busy chasing skirts. If Chris's priority was chasing skirts, Nell's as well as others, then it stands to reason that he wouldn't have had a lot of time to pour into his then 2-year-old daughter. And dads are important to little girls. I mean, they're important to boys too. Obviously. Just look at what's happening in the world as a result of the absence of fathers in the home, especially its effect on the young men of today. But their absence is also strongly felt among girls. Dads hold a special place in the hearts of their daughters, or at least they should. It is their dad who teaches them how they should be loved by a male and how they should expect to be treated. If their dad is absent or neglectful or fair weather, it teaches them to expect the same in their romantic relationships. But if their dad treats them like a queen, then she learns to expect the same treatment in her romantic relationships. Thus, it is the dad that sets the standard that she will likely forever follow. So, not surprisingly, Lexi has my deepest sympathies. My heart hurts for her, and I expected that many others would feel sympathy for her too. Or maybe I shouldn't have, since I'm quite used to having a different stance and position than most. But I was legitimately shocked that so many were so cold and unfeeling towards her. They were downright mean and seemed to lack even a basic understanding of what Lexi was saying and why she was feeling that way. Instead of the general public offering this young woman sympathy, and perhaps turning an expectant glance towards Chris with some expectation of an explanation of why he would treat his daughter the way he so obviously has, they instead accuse his obviously hurting, obviously abandoned, obviously neglected daughter of being bitter, as if being bitter about being abandoned, neglected, and hurt is unreasonable. If not bitter, what are you supposed to feel about such treatment? Joy? Inner peace? Are you supposed to be tickled? Feel warm and toasty? Here's what I don't understand. People talk about someone being bitter as if it's some sort of affliction. Like, oh no, she's bitter. Ah! Run for the hills. So what if she's bitter? The bitterness is the result of being hurt. It's a result of the maltreatment the person has suffered. They are entitled to be upset about something that upsets them. They're entitled to be upset about something that is upsetting. And what's more upsetting than feeling abandoned by a parent? What's more upsetting than feeling scapegoated by that parent's new spouse, who was immoral enough and low vibrational enough to take up with a married man? If that person was character deficient enough to run behind a married man, sleep with him, and get pregnant, surely she's also low enough to act less than loving, less than supportive, and less than parental to his kid from that marriage. What is wrong with people? I truly don't get people. So many of them are coming down on this young lady and saying she's bitter and jealous. Huh? I don't understand. Wouldn't you be bitter too? If you are chasing your dad down, trying hard for a relationship, and he is acting like you're an extra in his cast and not a main character, even though you were the first one on the scene, wouldn't you be angry too? I know I would. If my dad had stepped out on my mom, that would be bad enough. But if he then stepped out on me too, that would be unbearable. Then, if the woman he broke up his family for was then able to torment me, to rub in my face what all she gets from my dad and what all her kids get from my dad, kids who already get to live with him and have more access to him than I do when I can't even get a phone call, then I would be upset too. Most humans would. They called her jealous. Why? How? Because her dad has money and used that money to buy his other kids' stuff in her face that she couldn't also have? I'm willing to bet, even under the best circumstances, that would make a person jealous. Imagine a parent, let's say a dad, takes their two children that are full siblings with the same mom and the same dad that live in the same house. Let's say he takes them out for an ice cream cone. When they get to the shop, the dad tells one child they can have 2 scoops with sprinkles on top, but tells the other kid they cannot. That kid must ask their mom to take them back to get a cone at a later date because he already gave the mom the money for that child's cone. How do you think that child would feel? Might they be angry, sad, hurt, upset, bitter, jealous? Sure, all of the above. I'm willing to bet you would not walk up to that child and tell them to heal and stop being bitter. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't downplay the hurt they feel just because you didn't like the emotion they used to express that hurt. The unfair treatment would hurt and sting, even in the best of circumstances, even if both children belonged to both parents and had equal access to both parents in a home they all shared. But these weren't the best of circumstances. They were exacerbated by the fact that her dad had already walked out of her life and barely sought her out, but had instead moved on with a new family as if she were an old dishcloth that he'd upgraded from, having thrown it out to make room for the new dishcloths. Why wouldn't that cause feelings of anger, hurt, betrayal, jealousy, and bitterness? People told her she needed to heal. How can she when this is a current and present hurt? Didn't this just happen? Isn't the hurt being televised and relived now, as in currently? How can one heal from that? If I slam your finger in the door, then come back in an hour, can I expect that you will be healed? I gave you some allocated time to heal, didn't I? If I run you over with my car, can I give you a good solid month, then expect you to be ready to run around the block with me? I graciously gave you an allotted time to heal, didn't I? Wasn't it a generous amount of time? Wasn't it enough time? Well, enough time compared to whom? Who gets to decide? And guess what? Physical pain is one thing, but emotional pain is worse. It is deeper, more pervasive, and it lasts and lingers longer. It doesn't go away on a time schedule. It might not go away at all. You might be walking up the street thinking you're perfectly healed from whatever it was, and a memory or a thought or a smell or anything can bring you right back to that hurt, and it can ball up your heart like a sheet of paper all over again, as if it happened yesterday. This girl is hurt, and this man doesn't seem to care. I didn't watch the episode, but I heard that on a previous episode that Chris Fletcher cried when his son expressed emotional pain, but sent an accusatory text when his daughter Lexi expressed a similar pain. How do you think that discrepancy would make you feel? How are there so many Mother Teresas walking around out there, so healed and free and unbothered? How are these Mother Teresas so healed and free and unbothered that they want this woman who is dealing with decades of abandonment and rejection and betrayal and hurt to just get over it and move on? Oh yeah, and don't have any residual feelings like bitterness and anger about it either. Where are these Mother Teresas at? Because the people I see don't even want to let you get over in their lane when you have your blinkers on. They are ready to fight if you tap your horn asking them to go when the light changes. Or if you don't go, and I mean immediately, and with the fires of Ares, the god of war, on your tail, then they are ready to run their car clean over your hood. But yet this lady can't even express a mild displeasure that she was abandoned by her dad and left to deal with the pettiness and childishness from her dad's stealing stepmom? Oh, okay. When you put it that way, I understand. A previous video I made entitled Martell Holt versus Melody Cherie, when you realize the enemy was someone you loved and trusted, applies here. I hadn't heard about Lexi McCullum when I made that video, or else I would have included her in it, because the betrayal and hurt I talk about one needing to heal from and the internal trauma that such betrayal causes definitely applies to her. She will feel that hurt I talked about, and will have those same questions I talked about, and unfortunately will face the same devastation. So if she is listening to this, I would highly recommend that video to her. I will likely leave a card or a link to the video somewhere on here, so you or whomever needs to hear it can. Lexi, and whomever else is dealing with this type of pain and rejection, sometimes it's best to walk away. It doesn't mean you have to stay away, but sometimes you need the space to begin to heal. There's a reason wounds are closed up after a surgery and securely bandaged, and we're told not to bathe or touch it for a period of time. That's done to let the wound heal. You can remove the bandage and tend to it after some time, but sometimes it initially needs to be left alone. And just like you can go back and remove the bandage and give the wound the attention it needs after a while, sometimes it's truly best to leave the wound alone for good, and that part will be out of your hands. Sometimes the wound will develop scar tissue that runs deep and can't be healed in the traditional sense. And by that I mean it can't ever go back to the way it used to. Scar tissue develops in response to whatever the injury, or in the case of psychological pain, whatever the trauma was. And in those instances, it is best to just walk away and leave it as it is. Do the best you can to make yourself whole, but don't walk back into that hurt, trauma, or emotional pain again. I don't know which it will be for you, Lexi. What I can say is that, from the little I've seen, your dad appears fairly weak and spineless. I have nothing against him, as I don't know him from a can of tuna. What I mean by that is I have seen him allow Martel Holt to yell at and otherwise step to his wife, Nell, in a way I don't think most men would accept. Considering that, and considering the fact that he stepped out on your mom, abandoned you, and also stepped out on his latest wife too, he doesn't appear to be someone with strong convictions or strong character. I'm not dogging your dad, because even though he's hurt your heart, he's still your dad, and us girls can sometimes be protective of our fathers, whether or not they deserve it. Plus, you know how it is. We can talk about our loved one, but nobody else better do it. So no, I'm not trying to dog out your dad, but I say that he seems fairly spineless just because I want you to know that that might mean that he will not be strong enough to reach out and mend what needs mending. Usually in these situations, the wife will provide the salve and will bridge the gap, but I get the feeling that Nell has been very comfortable keeping you at arm's length and as an adjacent family member, as opposed to one with full rights and benefits. So don't expect much there, though I hope I'm proven wrong on that. Oftentimes, it is our expectations of others, that they will love us and treat us the same as we love and treat them, that gets us in trouble. So you may have to alter your expectations, though never your standards, as it concerns your dad and his wife. Whatever the case may be, you don't know me and I don't know you, but I want you to know that I believe you and am wishing you the best. If the best is a relationship with your seemingly undeserving dad, then I am wishing that for you. If the best is to walk away from people who are relatives, though not quite family, then I wish that for you instead. Whatever it is, just know that there are people in your life that love you. And I'm of the mindset that when someone exits our life or doesn't show up for us the way we want or need them to, and thus lose us, then it's their loss. So take care of yourself. All right, y'all. That's it, and that's all. Hello there. If you like truth, you'll like it here. Welcome. If you don't, or if you believe in groupthink, or bullying others into believing the popular opinion, then this isn't the place for you. So go ahead and just cancel me now. On this channel, we don't discuss my truth or your truth. We discuss the truth, and no topic is off limits. So, log in, like, subscribe, get comfy, and comment. It's nice to have you here. So let's talk.